There's a moment on almost every sailboat, usually about 10 minutes after leaving the dock, when someone looks around and thinks, I don't like this. The boat leans over, the horizon tilts, a coffee cup slides, someone braces a foot where there was no foot brace 5 minutes ago, and somewhere in the cockpit, often quietly, someone decides that sailing might not be for them after all. That thing they're reacting to isn't speed or danger, it isn't even bad weather, it's heel. And heel, more than almost anything else, is what turns potential sailors into people who politely say, I'll just stay on the dock. So today we're tackling that very real question. Which sailboats heel the least, and how much can we actually predict that with numbers? Because if there's someone in your sailing family who hates heeling, or if you're that person, this isn't a comfort issue, it's a participation issue. And we're here to fix that. Now, before the internet gets out its pitchforks, let's be clear about something. All monohulls heel, even cats heel a little bit. If a sailboat never heels, something has gone terribly wrong. Or you bought a multi-hull, which is a different video. But boats absolutely differ in how easily they heel, how far they heel, and how dramatic the whole experience feels while it's happening. And the good news is, designers have been accidentally telling us this for decades using boring little ratios that most people ignore. We're not going to ignore them. Heel is basically a tug of war. On one side, you have sail power trying to knock the boat over. On the other, you have stability and ballast and hull shape and keel depth trying to stand it back up. So instead of asking which boat heels least, in a vague way, we're going to really ask which boats are hardest to knock over for the amount of sail that they carry. That's where the numbers come in. For this comparison, we're going to look at monohulls between roughly 38 and 42 feet. Real cruising boats, boats people actually own, boats you might own, boats you'll see in real anchorages, not just brochures. We're using 4 basic indicators: sail area to displacement, how much shove does the rig have, ballast ratio, how much counterpunch does the boat have, displacement to length ratio, how heavy is the boat for her size, and the capsize screening formula, which mostly tells us about proportions and beam. None of these will tell you an exact heel angle. Anyone who says otherwise is either lying or trying to sell you something. But taken together, they paint a very good picture of tender versus stiff. And if you're boat shopping, it's a really good time to look at those numbers. Let's start with the quiet, heavyweight group of boats, starting with the Pearson 385. It's the boat equivalent to a retired linebacker who still wears flannel and doesn't need to prove anything. Its sail area to displacement ratio is extremely low. That means it simply doesn't generate much heeling force for its size, small sails. Add to that an enormous ballast ratio, nearly half the boat's weight in ballast, and suddenly you have a boat that really doesn't feel like falling over. Ever. This is the kind of boat where you look up at the sails and think, is that it? And then you realize that that was the point of the boat. If you're sailing with someone who wants the horizon to stay where God put it, boats like this are absolute gold. They're not exciting, they're not fast, they're not real good sprinters, but they are profoundly reassuring for people that get worried when the boat heels. The Pearson doesn't leap into a heel either. It eases into it, stops early, and just sort of stays there. Next up, the Scandinavian school of calm competence, the Halberg Razzie 40. And why not, let's throw in the Island Packet 40, because they sit in a similar philosophical camp, even though they come from different traditions. Both carry moderate sail plans, both have high ballast ratios, and both have proportions that favor steadiness over sparkle. These are boats that don't feel eager to impress you. They feel eager to get you there, very calmly. Heel comes on very slowly. There's a lot of resistance. The boat pushes back. You can feel it saying, all right, that's enough. And for people who dislike heel, that resistance is everything. It changes how it feels in your stomach. And it's not just the angle, it's the sensation, the absence of drama, the lack of suddenness. Contrast that with many modern production cruisers, the boats people tend to buy, and the difference is pretty immediate. Take boats like the Catalina 42 or Catalina 400. These sit right in the middle of basically every spectrum. They carry more sail than the older heavyweights, but they still retain decent ballast ratios and moderate proportions. These boats will heel more than the Pearson or the Halberg, but they do so in a predictable and manageable way. You know when to move the coffee cup before it actually needs to be moved. They feel lively though, without feeling threatening. They're often the compromise boat, enough performance to be fun, enough stability to keep the crew on board emotionally intact. For many families, this is the sweet spot in boats. Then we arrive at the modern French and German cruisers, the performance cruisers, and this is where the conversation gets interesting. Boats like the Dufour 412, Bavaria Cruiser 40, Sun Odyssey 409, and Oceanus 41 carry significantly higher sail area relative to their displacement, and notably lower ballast ratios. This doesn't mean they're unsafe, not even remotely. What it means is that they're designed to convert wind into speed very efficiently. The problem is that speed often arrives wearing the costume of heel. These boats tend to feel stiff at first. They resist the initial heel thanks to their wide beams and their hull form stability. But once they're powered up, they keep loading. Heel increases more rapidly. The sensation can feel dramatic, especially for someone who's sensitive to it. This is where many reluctant sailors get turned off from the whole sport. Not because the boat is doing anything wrong, but because the experience feels sudden and energetic and a little out of control. Dangerous. And here's the critical practical sailor truth that needs to be said out loud. Heel is not a design flaw. It's just a management issue. The boat that heels the least is often the boat that reefs earliest. A Pearson 385 doesn't heel much because it doesn't carry very much sail. An Oceanus 41 heels more because it can carry a lot of sail and often does. If you reef early and flatten the sails, ease the traveler, and sail the boat on its feet, even tender designs can actually calm right down. Conversely, if you overpower a stiff boat, it'll heel plenty too. But, and this is a big but, some boats make that learning curve easier for reluctant sailors than others. If someone in your sailing life hates to heel, you're not crazy for caring about that. You're not weak. You're not doing it wrong. You're trying to keep people sailing, and that's important. If you're boat shopping and heel is a big deal, the boats you want are the ones with lower sail area to displacement, higher ballast ratio, heavier displacement for their length, and calmer, slower responses to the wind. Also, full or near full keels, modified fins over performance fins. So if we had to answer the question honestly, the boat that heels the least on paper are the conservative cruisers, your Pearsons and Halberg and Island Packets, the boats that don't shout at you, the boats that don't rush, the boats that let people relax. But you also have to make sure that the way you sail it isn't the problem. If you're the person who hates heeling, next time the boat feels uncomfortable to you, drop the traveler a couple inches. On my boat, that will level her out almost immediately without actually slowing her down all that much. Or reduce sail in the first place. Roll up some of the jib and put a reef in the main. If you're stuck with a performance boat that loves to heel because you already own it, insist on sailing it slower than it needs to be sailed. If it's over 15 knots, put a reef in the main. A reef dramatically changes how the boat behaves and feels, almost like running everything in slightly slow motion. While you're here, did you see the great article from Bert Vermeer called How to Replace Sailboat Plexiglass Windows, a DIY Guide? He says restore your cabin's light and stop leaks with this DIY guide to removing crazed plexiglass, prepping the gel coat, and installing crystal clear new windows that last. This is definitely worth a read. Bert always does such a great job. If you have a few minutes, I'll leave a link in the description for you. While you're here, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out, but more importantly, it lets YouTube know that you like sailboat videos, so it'll show you them more often, which is kind of perfect, really. And don't forget to hit subscribe so I can see you again next time.